Now go! Let the legend come back to life.
Teflon Don is no more. Now it's Punished Don. He's been a very naughty boy, and now it's punishment time. And god damn it, has it been overdue. Guilty on all counts. Guilty, guilty, guilty 34 times. In short, Donny fought the law, and in long-running precedent, the law won. I'm sorry I may get too emotional in this episode, but I've long lost hope that this motherfucker is ever getting for real punished for his possibly literally endless amounts of crimes. So please, please allow us, dear viewers, to savor these little moments. And today, oh yeah, I forgot. Hi everybody. Welcome back on the show. Today is an unprecedented time, dear viewers. These are unprecedented times. We'll have to savor this beautiful moment alone, for the great Luigi, protector of the realm, has gone on holiday. But rest easy, he will be back stronger than ever next week. Now, we are alone at long last. Bacola, muchachos and muchachas. I don't know. We'll figure it out as we go along. Anyway, chop chop. Let's get straight to the news. We have so much. As I said, star witness Michael Cohen had already served jail time on the crime he did on Donny's orders. That is, falsified business records with his hush money payments to Stormy Daniels to unlawfully influence the outcome of an election. And I'm glad, obviously, that obvious justice has been obviously served. Furthermore, I'm just skeptical that it will move the needle in terms of Trump not getting reelected. It's the worst of his court cases in terms of that, the most spinnable, if you will. So Donald Trump, guilty of all 34 counts, falsified business records, criminal hash money scheme to influence the outcome of the 2016 election. Convicted by a jury of his peers, people, of 12 New Yorkers of felony falsification of business records, which makes it a crime for a person to make or cause false entries in records with the intent to commit a second crime. He will be sentenced on 11 July at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. So, what have we got on this? Let's go through the timeline of what has happened. Obviously, Trump replied by calling it the most rigged of all rigged trials by a conflicted judge who was corrupt, a disgrace, etc., etc. So beyond Trump's reaction, let's go through the world's media's reaction. Got the Guardian, got the New York Times, we've got Der Spiegel. They went with a very literal direction. The New Yorker, notice the tiny hands, beautiful. Washington Post, etc. Now let's get to the serious part of this news. Could Trump go to prison? Can he still run for president? For anyone not in the know, yes, obviously. The Constitution does not bar felons from running for the presidency. So that we can answer without even scrolling people through the article. Now, could he go to prison? It's a decision that rests entirely with the judge, the known degenerate scam, witch hunt, incompetent, etc., as Trump calls him, overseeing the case. The crimes Trump has been found guilty of are Class E felonies, the least serious category, punishable by up to 4 years in prison, sentencing set for 11 July. Trump, however, unlikely to be sentenced to prison, experts say. First-time offender, crime he has been found guilty of is a non-violent paper crime. I think the judge would probably not incarcerate him under those circumstances. Have we got anything else to perhaps inform us on what the judge is going to go with in terms of sentencing on the 11th of July? Of course, Trump will appeal the sentence, whatever it is. So then any punishment will then probably be on hold while an appeal is pending. So this motherfucker ain't gonna be punished for at least the appellate process will take months, even years to play out, meaning it could be a long, long while before the sentence would take effect. Important to note that he cannot pardon himself for this because it's a state crime. So the conviction, as we said, will not affect Trump's legal ability to run for president. Um, to vote. We don't care if he votes. And in terms of the judge, I mean, it's important to note that Trump has been going all around, just impugning everything about this trial with zero regard. I mean, he's called the judge everything under the sun. Rigged trial, conflicted judge who was corrupt. He was corrupt. He was rigged. He was conflicted. A disgrace. So, I mean, it's important to note that when you come out with these comments, before the judge has even sentenced you, usually for anybody not named Donald Trump, the sentence would have been most definitely prison at this point because you can't be sentenced to up to what was it, 4 years in prison. You'd get the full shebang if you actually came out against the judge this way before sentencing because people you're supposed to show some degree of fucking remorse through this whole process. So I mean, but because it's judge, and we also got statements by the judge, Merchant, we can get an idea that this guy's definitely not getting jail time. He's already stated that the last thing I want to do, Mr. Trump, is put you in jail. You are the former president of the United States and possibly the next president as well. So, I mean, already you pretty much know this ain't happening. Rigged. It's rigged. It's obviously rigged. So, what else have we got on this? We got some reactions from outside the court. You can imagine it was very polarized. The people were so polarized. Some celebrating, some losing their minds. We had the famous Free Father Teresa. Love that guy. Definitely in tune with reality, folks. Not even Mother Teresa could beat those charges, obviously. I mean, falsifying business records. What else have we got? Oh, we could go through because he's got a few other just quickly, they ain't happening before the election. We have his retention of classified documents case. He got a judge who has been too slow. Federal criminal case over his efforts to overturn the 2020 election. That was Jack Smith. The Supreme Court is hearing about immunity, so forget about it. And then you got the Georgia case with the top prosecutor having an affair with her deputy. So, I mean, the guy got really lucky. And also, Merrick Garland has failed. I mean, he should have brought at least the federal cases. I mean, at least a year or so before now, because this is the election, man. Time is running out. I mean, just to note, this is the first time a president has been convicted of felony crimes in America's near 250-year history. Mazel tov. Well overdue, folks. So we had this press conference. Trump responded the next day with a press conference after his criminal convictions. And I have to note that this is the most rattled I've ever seen him. Look at that hairdo. Obviously, that hairdo hasn't been given the proper treatment. Why would I say he was the most rattled? I mean, he talked about the filthy hordes of migrants pouring like putrid sludge through the borders, obviously. But mostly he talked about guys he knew who went to jail, like a retired fucking mob boss or something. That guy, Tony Two Shoes, great guy. We all remember him. They got him for inflating asset prices. Who knew you couldn't inflate them to secure better loans? Who knew? What a witch hunt. At one point, anyway, he even claimed that all New York businessmen are corrupt.
Heads of businesses say, man, we don't want to get involved with that. I could go through the books of any business person in the city, and I could find things that, in theory, I guess, let's indict him, let's destroy his life.
It was a beautiful speech. Great speech. Only thing missing was the great late Hannibal Lecter. Rest in peace. So that was a very weird one. Oh, evidently rattled. We've got some allies voicing their support, and I mean, just to note, I don't assume about these things. I mean, if Putin is a friend of Trump, I just listen to what his fucking spokesperson says about this. And that's how I infer my conclusions. But you got the great ones, the alliance of the strongest, as the great Luigi calls them. We have Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov, obviously legal. And then we have the behemoth of liberal thought that is Victor. I've known the real Donald Trump to be a man of honor. Wow. Already 10 out of 10 Victor nailed it. I mean, even his greatest enemies. As president, he always put America first, couldn't find America on a map. He commanded respect around the world, oof, and used this respect to build peace, so much peace. Let the people make their verdict. Keep on fighting, Mr. President. Wow, such strongness, such strength. Meanwhile, Japan's chief cabinet secretary, Yoshimasa Hayashi, said, "We would like to refrain from commenting on matters relating to judicial procedures in other countries. The Japanese government is not in a position to make comments with presumption about the impact on the US presidential election. In any event, we are closely monitoring related developments and will continue to gather information." So weird. Anyway, and then we had, side story. We're going to do side stories as well, folks. Nobody can stop me now. Just we had Donald Trump coming out with a fucking pitch to oil bosses to 20 fossil fuel heads for 1 billion. I want your billion to aid his presidential campaign in return for promises of lucrative tax and regulatory favors. Is the definition of corruption paid to play, as you might say? Just a note, a side note, what he's been up to fund his campaign these days. And we got the responses. What have the responses have been from Trump and the Republican? Every Republican lined up behind him, obviously. I mean, these people are completely spineless at this point. And you had Donald Trump rallying behind him, a lot of the Republican Party, such great people, for rallying behind him in the wake of his conviction, 34 felony charges. He made his comments in his great interview with the Foxy Friends. He was served a series of softball questions. Ooh, shots fired by The Guardian, by the trio of Fox hosts, each one more stupid than the other. Throughout the interview, people get it's a scam, and we know the spiel. How speakers to hear him. Do we have anything else? I will go any polls. Well, the polls, people, up to now have been inconclusive. Doesn't seem to have made much a difference, which I mean, the thing being that because they're both such shit candidates, the difference is very marginal between them. And because the difference is very marginal, and I mean, why do I call Biden a shit candidate? First of all, foreign policy wise, in terms of Israel and Gaza, he has proven himself, and we'll get there. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. So let's pull back. Let's pull back a little bit. And the polls are the difference is so marginal between them that even if, I don't know, 10% of Republican voters are peeled back from this, it could make a difference in the swing states. Up to now, a difference hasn't been observed, but everybody's looking at the polls like fucking hungry ravens. So we'll let you know. One of them found 49% of independents, 15% of Republicans think Trump should end his presidential campaign. Anyway, we'll see. Over the course of the trial, the surveys did not shift much, as he frequently maintained a narrow lead over his Democratic opponent. And he will be sentenced in July, just before the Republican Party convention. That is almost certain, obviously, to nominate him as the presidential candidate. He responded to the possibility that he could face jail time for his conviction. I don't know that the public would stand it. I don't. I think it would be tough for the public to take. At a certain point, there's a breaking point. Very subtly veiled threats, Donny. And then, as the final note on this, he called on the Supreme Court to annul his guilty verdict, the sentencing for not having done anything wrong will be conveniently for the fascists 4 days before the Republican National Convention. And after this, a little bit after his press conference, Donny's press conference, Biden came out in a very weird press conference, one of his weirdest yet. Bravo, Jack. Apart from talking about the ceasefire plan that he's supposedly announcing on behalf of Israel, apart from that, he reacted like this to a question by a journalist.
Mr. President, can you tell us, sir, Donald Trump refers to himself as a political prisoner and blames you directly. What's your response to that, sir? Do you think the conviction will have an impact on the campaign?
Which, as far as reaction goes, it's a pretty weird one, Jack. Keep it. And of course, I mean, his ceasefire plan, the response by Bibi came out almost immediately and just fucking shut on it. It was like, fuck you. Which, I mean, far be it from me to mention, has reached, I mean, Jack, in terms of the response that he's been receiving by a foreign leader such as Benjamin, has been so humiliating that at this point, people pity him, which is not a good look on the fucking US president. Is not a good look if you want to project being the leader of the free world or whatever the fuck you call each other. So, I mean, far be it from me to explain how bad this fucking looks when you just come out with a stupid plan to save the fucking, with the stupid plan to fucking enact a ceasefire, and immediately Bibi comes out and tells you to piss the fuck off. It doesn't look good, Jack. Doesn't look good. And I mean, Congress's response, even better. They invited the upcoming soon-to-be war criminal to address a joint meeting of Congress. Never let you down, American Congress people. And just a brief explanation. I mean, Hamas said that they like the positivity of Biden's message. Nice. And the Israeli Prime Minister is immediately undermined Biden, non-starter. As expected, as we've discussed many times, Netanyahu's coalition depends on the far-right finance minister and the far-right national security minister, who immediately voiced opposition to the new truce plan and threatened to resign if it goes ahead. But on the other hand, you've got the military and intelligence chiefs, as well as the centrist members of his war cabinet, pressuring him to accept the ceasefire and the hostage release deal. That includes Benny Gantz, and that includes Israel's opposition leader, Yair Lapid, who also urged him to agree to a hostage ceasefire there. And we also got something important that about 4 days, Benny has claimed that he will resign if by the 8th of June the Prime Minister does not commit to an actual plan for Gaza after the war has ended. As we have me and Luigi, and I miss him already, folks, as me and Luigi often talked about, Netanyahu, long plagued by corruption charges, he denies, sees staying in office as his best chance of avoiding prosecution, as well as putting off investigations and hearings into the security failures that contributed to Hamas's 7th of October assault. So, I mean, he doesn't want the coalition to break apart. On the other hand, I mean, Yair Lapid told him they want to help on this, but I doubt that he would favor aligning with the most centrist parts than with the more far right. He prefers keeping the far right closer. That's what I'm arguing. So I don't see the ceasefire as happening. We'll see, but I have doubts. Not convinced, Jack. More than 36,000 people have been killed. The only time actual hostages have been exchanged had been in the one ceasefire that was enacted. We got some updates on the issue. We have the US State Department coming out, an ex-official who quit his post as a senior advisor, came out with a statement that the report earlier this month that absolved Israel of the responsibility for blocking humanitarian aid flows into Gaza had actually overruled the advice of his own experts, according to the former senior US official who resigned this week. So, I mean, we didn't even cover the report because the report was the most, I mean, you don't say that the report you came out with, it was like, maybe they blocked aid, but we don't have evidence. You don't say that shit was fucking a shit report, right? So, I mean, we didn't cover it, but it's good to see they had overruled their own experts, and an expert who quit came out and stated it. Just good to have the evidence. And also on that, Dutch MPs have called for inquiry into reports of Israel spying on International Criminal Court lawyers that we went through last time, with even the head of the Mossad openly getting involved. Which is good to see because the ICC is in The Hague, which is in the Netherlands, and that's how the Dutch get involved. So beyond that, We've got some election news. This week, many things happens, apart from Donny Boy becoming indicted, apart from punished Trump. We also had a lot of elections, and we can go through them very fast, very quickly. This is going to be a shorter episode because there's nobody to respond to me, so I'm sorry. I'll do my best to drag it on. Modi poised for third term, but may fall short of landslide Indian election win. So Modi didn't do that. Modi, the disciple of Shiva, Shiva's messenger, whatever the fuck, he didn't do that well. Unlikely to win the two-thirds majority predicted by exit polls. But he will win the third term, important to note, still won the election. He and his political allies have won 290 seats, enough to form a majority government to rule for the next 5 years. However, it was a decline from the 2019 victory. The BJP was on course to lose almost 70 constituencies, winning just 240 seats, meaning it will have to rely on its alliance partners to achieve the majority. The outcome is a distinct departure from the two-thirds majority that many exit polls had predicted. Shitty exit polls, people. Meanwhile, the opposition alliance, which goes by the acronym India, very catchy, appeared to far outperform expectations, collectively winning 234 seats, according to the early count. The alliance for the more than 20 national parties and regional opposition parties have come together for the first time in this election with the aim of defeating Modi, who has been in power since 2014. Have we got any other news on this? I mean, it's good to see. It's good to see Modi, the messenger, Shiva's messenger, getting a little bit of restraints on his limitless power. It's good to see a few more checks applied to Modi's party. So it's good to see him not getting the two-thirds majority, since he's been also, much like his friend, very naughty. Got some comments. The US applauded India's government for completing a massive election undertaking. Jack was impressed. Modi said, I want to bow down and salute them. Very humble. Our citizens in India have full faith in the party, and today's victory is a victory of the people. Got some pictures from his speech after the election. Everybody celebrated in these elections in India because the alliance did well, and even the BJP supporters celebrated because they still won the election. Rahul Gandhi, not related to Gandhi, has performed better than expected. He did not appear to rule out his own attempt to form a government. In all actuality, Modi is almost 100% certain to be the prime minister again for the third time. He said their campaign had not just been against the BJP to save the country's constitution, which he accused Modi of trying to destroy. The country has unanimously told Modi and Shah that we don't want you running this country. That's the interior minister, I think. He told the press conference, we focused our fight on the unemployed, the farmers, and the poor. The BJP, meanwhile, spread lies and hatred. People have rejected that. Anyway, good to see in India. Then we have South Africa. Let's be honest, we need to go chop. We need to do this fast. It's elections everywhere. Now South Africa, as Luigi mentioned last time, the ANC has lost its majority that it had maintained ever since the end of apartheid in South Africa. And I mean, for the old folks in South Africa, the ANC is associated with images of Nelson Mandela coming out of prison after a very long prison sentence with his fist clenched in the air. So, I mean, there is a romanticized value to the notion of the party, even though I think it's fair to admit that the freedom fighters of the ANC, Mandela excluded, of course, turned into some really fat cats afterwards that plagued South Africa with endemic corruption that is still struggling to this day. Unemployment up the wazoo, one of the most unequal countries in the world. So it's fair to say that even though the dream was right, Mandela was right, the ANC was right, they have strayed from that path. You know what I mean? Final results from Wednesday's seismic South Africa elections have confirmed that the African National Congress Party has lost its majority for the first time in 30 years of full democracy, firing the starting gun on unprecedented coalition talks, which I think is going to turn out better. I mean, Jacob Zuma may not be an ideal candidate, but it's still better to have the coalition running the country than the ANC on its own after 30 years of running it. Because after 30 years of running something without competition as a government, it is clear that they are incapable of running it well. So I can understand why they lost that majority, even if they symbolize something great as a party historically. I mean, people have to realize that even the Republican Party at one point symbolized something great, but look at them now, right? So on a vote share of just over 40%. So they get no majority. They got 159 seats out of the 400-member National Assembly. High unemployment, power cuts, violent crime, crumbling infrastructure have contributed to a hemorrhaging of support for the former liberation movement. The pro-business Democratic Alliance won 87 seats, and Jacob Zuma's party took 58. The Economic Freedom Fighters, far-left group Marxist-Leninist Party, led by the ousted ANC youth leader Julius, took 39. Now, how it will play out, nobody knows, because Zuma has a thing against Ramaphosa, against Cyril, who is the leader of the ANC, who was the president, and Zuma doesn't want the leader of the other party, this party. Yeah, I mean, sorry, this party. Is only willing to enter coalition talks with Cyril and his African National Congress only if Cyril agrees to step down, which I believe is a no-go for Cyril. So an alliance with Zuma's party seems unlikely, but then an alliance with the Democratic Alliance also seems unlikely. So nobody knows how this will break down in the end, but it is very interesting to see, and it is a good development for South Africa. In the end, because change had to happen, and coalitions naturally can't go too extreme because they contain multiple elements that have to compromise. So I'm in favor of the results, as far as you can be in favor of any results, and considering who the players were in this election. MK leaders said they will not work with the MC, where it is led by Ramaphosa, who Zuma is hell-bent on exacting revenge against. Zuma was president from 2009 to 2018 and was forced to resign by the ANC amid corruption allegations, which he denies. A tie-up with the Democratic Alliance could be favored by the more business-friendly wing of the ANC. However, such a coalition would face criticism from the many black South Africans who see the white-led DA as favoring the interests of white people, which the DA denies. Some analysts have said that bringing in a third black-led party could help the ANC head off those criticisms. DA leaders have said that the coalition is an option. Another option for the ANC, and one that is likely preferred by the left wing of the party, is filling up with the freedom fighters. But we'll see what happens. This has to happen fast, by the way, because the Constitution stipulates that Parliament must sit within 14 days of the final election results and elect a president at that first sitting. So these are going to be quick negotiations, pronto negotiations. And from South Africa to Mexico, we have Claudia Sheinbaum, elected as the first female president in a landslide victory, has won a lot to become Mexico's first female president, inheriting the prospect of her mentor and outgoing leader, Andres Manuel AMLO, whose popularity among the poor helped drive her triumph. AMLO now is a very interesting figure in Mexican politics. I just want to say that when we look at Mexican politics, we have to account that Mexico is a complete narco state. The cartels have infiltrated basically every economic industry. Mexico is a special case. So you judge each politician accordingly, because it's not that all this criminality was created because of AMLO, or because, I mean, this criminality has existed for a while now. So you have to account for that. Sheinbaum, a left-wing climate scientist, a former mayor of Mexico City, won the presidency with between 58 and 60% of the vote. The ruling coalition was also on track for a possible two-thirds majority. We got news on that, poised to secure a super majority after historic win. For the first time in the 200 years of the Republic, I will become the first woman president of Mexico. Victory is a major step for Mexico, a country known for its macho culture. She will also be the first person from a Jewish background to lead the country. Her victory, important to note, exceeded that of her populist mentor, Lopez Obrador. He congratulated her. And her supermajority in Congress would let her party pass legislation and budgets unopposed, and perhaps even change the Constitution without need for compromise. And she portrayed herself as a continuity candidate because because AMLO is a very popular guy in Mexico, and she vowed to keep the policies of her populist predecessor, who founded the Morena party and forged a bond with voters disenchanted with democracy. And as I already said, she appears to have won 5 million more votes than he did 6 years ago. Thanks in part to a constitutional amendment that set the goal of gender parity in all races for elected office and in appointments for top jobs in government, women now hold half the seats in Mexico's Congress and almost half the jobs in cabinet and one-third of the governorships. Not least the violence, corruption, and impunity as organized crime that failed to improve under AMLO as organized crime groups fight to deepen their control of territory and local businesses. We're talking about a country where criminal groups have infiltrated every facet of their economic activity. They take a slice of everything. So you have to account for that when evaluating Mexican presidents. So I'm not gonna shit on AMLO excessively because of the violence, but also, of course, he has not done nearly enough to improve the situation. But it is, again, a very hard situation to improve. In terms of this election, why did she stick herself close to AMLO? Because he still polls consistently around 65%. But I have to say, I still believe that there's a high possibility that she's gonna be better than AMLO, that she's gonna be better than him. So we have to keep an eye out on Miss Claudia, because it's I mean, during the pandemic, some background info, her scientific background was in evidence. While AMLO refused to wear a mask, she offered free widespread testing, required face masks on public transport, and bought ventilators to convert beds into intensive care units. The outcome was still grim, but without such measures, it would have been worse. Her security strategy, which put money into police training and investigation, appeared to cut homicides by half. I doubt it cut homicides by half, but as the Guardian notes as well, few doubt that the security did improve nonetheless. She represents the more professional credential wing of Morena. So, hopeful that she turns out well. Very hopeful that she turns out well. And good to see anyway, Mexico, beyond anything else, elect a female president. Very nice to see. Important to know that between Canada, the United States, and Mexico, it was Mexico that did better. So what else have we got? Let's start wrapping this up, folks. I've already taken too much of your time. What have we got? And without Luigi, I feel bare and alone and weird. It's just weird talking to yourself. And imagining, I mean, I have to say, I just always imagine an adoring crowd of fans just laughing at every sentence like drooling motherfucking idiots. That's what gets me through. But let's reach up on some funny stuff quickly. I watch his last episode, just watch it. It was a tour de force performance on the media and Trump's conviction. An incredible performance, John. Keep it up. And muchacho, actually muchacha is girl or young woman. It's not muchaches. And Sandy Hook relatives. Alex Jones is probably going to have to liquidate the InfoWars. And I mean, in these dark times, if this is not a silver lining, I don't know what is. Have a good week, folks. See you next week. Bye-bye. And hopefully have Luigi next week with us. Bye-bye.